Morning, David.
Christopher, it's you and me again.
Just the two of us. Joe's done a runner.
Reverend Neary's being punished severely this morning. She had to go to a school governors meeting.
Oh.
And I was at one yesterday morning. Another 2.5 hours of my life totally wasted. But there we are.
Oh.
It has to be
done.
Don't say
that. There might be other governors listening.
No, they know my feelings about school governors meetings. So you're okay. I'm coming to the end of my 30th consecutive year as a school governor on 8 different schools.
That must mean you know an awful lot about being a school governor.
No, because I hate it.
So much so that I think you could go and be an advisor to all the school governors in the area.
No, because my advice would be don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, I think the thing about school governing is, Chris, when I first became a school governor when I was at Cudston, because that's when I first became. I became one of the college's representatives at the village. Well, the village where they all used to go. You'll remember it. You were at Cudston, up the road, and I became a school governor because the school had representations because of student families, a bit like the army get the occasional representation because of army families, you know. And I was one of the 2 nominated. So that was the beginning of my 30 years of whatever. And it was so different in those days. You know, the responsibilities forced upon you by successive governments and the expectations of you weren't there then. You know, the responsibility fair and square stood with the head teacher.
Yeah.
Except now the head teacher has got responsibility. Of course they have, like we do. But a lot of responsibility for the way the school is run and the finances are all passed down to the governors. And it's hours and hours of work if you take it seriously. And of course, some people, we have a lot of retired people who take up being governors, which is great. But they almost see it as a professional job, and I don't have the time to give, particularly sitting on 2 school governors like you do. You're on 2, or are you on 3, Chris? I can't remember.
I'm on 3.
3, I thought you were.
And I think that's the secret, isn't it? Is working out how much you do.
Yeah, and how much time you can
because
give.
We all know we can't. We're involved. We've got our fingers in so many different pies. It's almost sometimes we can't do any of it properly.
Well, I had an email the other day, not an email, a letter the other day from the Charity Commission, which is a rarity in itself, I would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
But they've obviously been doing a lot of checking because they'd written to me to say, did I realise I was a trustee of 42 charities, which I didn't realise. And was I able to, should I reconsider some of them? Was I able to give the time that was required? Which is a good question to ask. Not a problem. So I asked. I then even got in touch with them and said, could they send me a list? Because I wasn't aware I was on 42. And believe it or not, some of them were from previous churches I'd been vicar of, where they hadn't taken my name off their charity trustees lists. So that was fairly quickly dealt with. And then, of course, we're registered as charity trustee for all, or I am, for all 14 parishes in the Beaminster Teams. That's a big chunk of them before you even start.
Yeah.
But all those other charities, and the Beaminster Charities, Netherbury Charities, Fred Young Trust, Blackden, and on they go across all the parishes. And I think the number's down to about 28 now. But the one thing I've never realised, dear viewer, and if you're a trustee of any charity, that even if you resign or you come off a charity as a trustee, you're still responsible for any actions that have been taken during your time for up to, I think it's 10 years.
And on that cheery note, shall we have a pause?
Yeah, Chris. Let's have a pause.
So from the sacrifice of being trustees of a charity to the crucifixion of Jesus.
Please, Chris.
A reading from Luke chapter 23. Where am I? What verse do I start at? Verse 33. Sorry, I got the wrong phone up. So when they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they cast lots to divide his clothing, and the people stood by watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was also an inscription over him, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. He replied, Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Thanks, Chris. That's always a moving reading, of course it is. And there is so much in there, so many different points that you could pick up and talk about. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of them. But of course, this is the last Sunday of the church's year, isn't it?
It is. Now I say it's the Feast of Christ the King, which is why we've got that reading.
It is the Feast of Christ the King.
But you say it is.
Well, in old Anglican piety, there we are, that's good language, isn't it? Oh. Good old Anglican piety. It was often known, and still is in some of our places, as Stir-up Sunday. And we have a special column, don't we? Stir up, O God, in us, etc., etc. So Stir-up Sunday.
You were saying earlier, one of your churches doesn't even follow that.
Well, they do normally, but because they had a service last week for Remembrance Sunday, they've tried to space it out, and they've gone a week later than usual. So Blackdown will be having their Christmas pudding service a week late. I hope that doesn't affect the cooking of it all, because, got to get in. And of course, Stir-up Sunday traditionally was when you stirred up your Christmas puddings and cooked them, I think. Not stirring up trouble and whatever.
Is this why many vicars are the size that they are? With all these things harvest festivals, harvest suppers, Christmas puddings.
Well, I started off on one a day. Look what happened to me, Chris. I ask you. It's not a good thing. Yes, Christmas puddings. But there we are. So Stir-up Sunday, Christ the King, last Sunday before Advent, lots of titles given to today. And,
I think when I was a teenager, the end of this reading gave me one of my very first theological questions and dilemmas.
Where is paradise? I bet that was the question, was it, Chris?
No, it wasn't where is paradise. It was that when Jesus died, I was taught he descended to hell.
Yeah.
He was dead for 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get this Jesus words. Jesus says, today you will be with me in paradise. Well, if while he's dead on the cross, as in today,
yeah,
and he's descended into hell, that's not paradise.
Well, that's a very good thing, because the Roman Catholic Church have a slightly different theological understanding, I believe, on this, about the thing of paradise and hell and the holding place. Is paradise just a holding place before he went into hell? And there we are. And I always stress the word when I read that reading, today, not tomorrow, not in a week's time, but today.
Today.
You will be with me in paradise. Doesn't talk about what happens after that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But we were always taught that when he died on the cross, he spent 3 days in hell. That's what I was taught.
Well, yeah. Perhaps he only spent half a day in paradise and the other half a day. We don't know. I mean, that's
maybe you just answered it. Maybe the Catholics are right and the Church of England's wrong.
Yeah. Or other branches of church. I mean, who knows? That's the beauty of faith. Again, it's being able to have dialogue and try and work out these things. But there we are, the penitent thief, as he's often recalled, I think, on the cross. I realise who you are. Can I be with you? Yes, today you can be with me.
But also, I find it's almost one of the most reassuring phrases in the Bible.
Yeah.
Jesus is there hanging on a cross, dying.
Yeah.
He's got a crown of thorns on his head. We all know the pictures of how horrible Good Friday is. Yeah. And yet he's saying, today you'll be with me in paradise. It's a huge statement that we can have to everybody who's suffering, everybody who's being maltreated, everybody who's terminally ill, everybody suffering. Well, we're talking about war at the moment. We just had Remembrance Sunday. On how can, what has the church got to say for me in my bad situation? Well, here we've got Jesus in a pretty bad situation, if that's not too much of an understatement, and saying, today you'll be with me in paradise. Mm-hmm. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. One of the questions, of course, is, where is paradise? We're back to that point again.
Well, it is. But, to me, whatever you define paradise.
Yeah, what is paradise like?
And what is it like? Well, it's got to be better than here.
Yeah. Got to be. Unless, of course,
our funeral services always say, free from worry, free from pain.
Yeah. Exactly. Unless you're in Birmingham and you're stuck on the island of Paradise Circus, that's a bit like being in hell, believe me.
Oh, I believe you.
Believe me. I've tried to get around that island many times. It's a wonderful reading, and with so Christ the King. What? There's also been a lot of debate theologically about kingdom and king, and some people don't like us using the word kingdom, do they? Or
well, they don't. But then it's like I'm doing in school assemblies this week.
Yeah,
we've just had the funeral for our late Queen, who was our Queen for 70 years, and we now have a king.
Yeah.
And that funeral service was full of so much pomp and ceremony.
Yeah.
It was done brilliantly, and we all admired her as a sovereign. And again, if we just go back up a few words, the statement, this is the kingdom of the Jews. And Jesus saying, my kingdom is not of this world. Well, what does that mean?
Well, I guess you used the word a few moments ago, Chris, which is spot on for what you just asked the question of, and I'm sure you were working on that, and that's sovereign. Because God, we believe that God is sovereign over all the world, don't we? Not just a little bit of it or a part of it.
Yeah.
That God is sovereign over all the world, or over all of eternity to a degree. God rules with his kind and loving power, even past what we know today.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah, my kingdom is not of this world, he said.
It's not of this world, yeah. Yeah.
But also, I think in a lot of ways it is, because he's the king of our hearts.
Yeah.
It's not a physical place. It's the kingdom of our souls, of this world and the next.
I think it's worth knowing that, the church isn't set against the world or set out as being more important than the world, but it's part of the world. It's praying for it, it's longing for it in a contemporary sort of way. That's what we as church. If we use the word church, and I've got more and more away from it, of course. But church can have many meanings. Forget the building aspect of it. It is the collection of all of us who have faith in Jesus as that sovereign Lord. And we want the best for the world. We want to see peace. We want to see love and justice and caring. And you were talking to me off air earlier about food banks and how it had changed someone's whole understanding of what they were about, from somebody who was quite, I can't say anti, that would be wrong of me to say because I don't know the person, but someone who had reservations, say, but who went to visit one, and now he's wanting to volunteer because they've seen. And I think, you know, there's a lot about what the church is trying to say. Actually, we are about being part of the world and sharing in its pain and its suffering, because that's what Jesus did. And it's sometimes very difficult when you go to visit somebody, as you've done and I've done and a lot of people have done, who perhaps is in pain and suffering, to say that Jesus is in that pain with you. It seems so trite at times, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't do it right there, but you can do it gently.
Yeah.
You know, it's... you know, I've been with many people that have been Christians for many, many years, who have found that actually when trouble comes, they haven't known how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because they don't see a gospel that can deal with pain and trouble.
Yeah.
Whereas I think actually, you know, he doesn't. I often say he doesn't have a magic wand to wave your troubles away, but he's there to help you through it.
Mm-hmm. To walk alongside you through those.
Alongside you, yeah.
And that's what he was doing in a way to that thief on the cross, wasn't he? You know, he was offering him an opportunity to, you know, to walk alongside him through whatever the next steps of they were going to go through together, I guess.
I mean, those two criminals, it's quite, you know, it's written as a very big contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
One said, oh, this is a ticket to get out, this is a ticket to get back off the cross and get away with what I've done.
Yeah.
And then with no repentance. And the other guy said, well, look, we deserve it. We did what we were accused of.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and that's why Jesus says you'll be with me in paradise, because you've got the guy on the cross, condemned for what he's done.
Yeah.
But asking Jesus for forgiveness, and Jesus says, yeah.
I think it's even more significant than that to me at times, Chris. I'm sure you've thought in the way I'm going to explain it yourself in the past. Here's the thief who has done something wrong, asking for forgiveness of someone who's also facing the same punishment or going through the same punishment, who of course hasn't done anything wrong. Yes. But he's still taking, you know, he's setting the example. In effect, you know, Jesus' death frees us all up, but we still got to be repentant of the things we know that we've done that, you know, are the word sin seems such a strong word, but often you can't think of a better word. You know, I often say we're now going to, if we come to the confession, so I'll actually say, you know, going to spend a moment of quiet or stillness while we think of those things we know have upset God or we want to say sorry to God for. But it's all the same thing. You know, we're just playing with words, semantics, I guess, because sin seems to suggest that some people are worse than others. Is my sin worse than yours? Well, you know, I just was rude to somebody, whereas you belittle somebody, but they're both wrong, aren't they?
Yeah, I always find it, in Bartlett's in Bridport, there's a little van outside, isn't there, that sells burgers and bacon butties and things.
That's right, yeah.
How can I ever buy anything from there, because its title is called Sins?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess they're just trying to highlight the fact that it's unhealthy eating, but...
Yeah. Well, I guess you could get away, Chris, by saying, I've got to try this thing before, you know, I've got to know what other people have, you know, that's the only way ready for you, because you are sinless, I know this.
Isn't that part of... Sorry, you made me laugh. But isn't that part of what Paul was saying?
Yes, exactly.
Let me go and sin even more, because I can get forgiven even more.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And I think from what I remember, my Bible says, it says, by no means, I think was the strength of the translation we had. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
You know, we've read stories of Christians wanting to go and visit red light districts and things, A, to preach to them, to the people there, and B, to say, well, that then they can get forgiven for even more.
Yeah.
Which is also wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that becomes under the realm of intentional sins rather than...
Oh, yes. You're getting really deep here now, Chris. Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's only Rev Chat. I'm not in the pulpit.
I tell you what, if your people are getting this level of depth of theology, a lot are missing out dreadfully. I can tell you that.
Oh, I'll have to come and do a guest preach at your place.
Yeah,
Oh, I've done that once already.
You've done that once. Yeah, they're still talking about it. But no, it's no, but no. But you're right. It is. This whole thing, and for me, Jesus hadn't sinned, and he is a man who has, asking him for forgiveness because he recognises the wrong that has been done to that man. And the response is, yeah, you've recognised what you've done as being wrong. Today, you'll be with me in paradise. So this weekend, I'm sure all your churches are going to be bedecked with crowns and things, are they?
I'm sure they will be.
Yeah.
Got a joint service with Uploaders Methodist Chapel.
Yeah.
So I shall be getting some crowns out there, and I might even go and make a crown out of my rambling rector.
Oh, is that because of your sermon?
Well, I shall do a bit of
rambling. I was getting on to Chris. Sorry.
Look, I ramble at the front of my magazine every month.
You do. Now, whilst you're meeting with your good friends from the Methodist Church, would you say a special prayer for the Methodist minister at Netherhay Chapel? He's had a heart attack, poor man, and please do pray for him, for Andrew.
What was his name?
Andrew Longstaff is the Methodist minister. It'll be in a totally different circuit to your people, because he's part of the, I think, Devon and Cornwall circuit. It's just that and Somerset are involved in that, because Netherbury used to be in Somerset in centuries gone by, now in Dorset, and the circuit, I'm sure it'll be a different circuit to the one you're in, but that doesn't matter. Please do pray for Andrew, and as we're doing for him and his family at the moment. Yeah.
Yep, I can do that.
That'd be lovely. And everybody else, please. Yep. Pray as well. Well, Chris, it's you and I potentially next week again.
Yes, but it looks like we might have to find a slightly different time to record.
We can. And you were asking about Tuesday. Not that this will affect the...
Shall I hit stop on the record first?
Yeah, well, you're not going to affect the viewer. So, dear viewer, thank you again for joining us. If you want to drop us some of your thoughts on paradise or other bits that we've talked about, the kingship of Christ or the sovereignty of God, or
stirring up your Christmas pudding.
Or even, please let us know if you intend to stir your puddings. Have you made them already? That for some people, that indicates the dreaded C word is ever nearer. But it is, after all, only 5 weeks away or something. Can't be, because there are 5 Sundays in Advent or whatever. But there we are. We know what we're talking about. Dear viewer, thank you very much. You can follow Chris and his ramblings in his magazine, on his podcasts, on his Twitter accounts, on his... Do you do Twitter, Chris?
Not very often.
No, in that case, don't follow him on Twitter. But on Snapchat, Instagram.
Don't do Snapchat. Don't do Instagram. I do TikTok.
TikTok, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You can follow him on TikTok and all the other things that his team do magnificently. And you can follow us on the Beaminster Team, thanks to Harry's brilliance, on all our normal things, on YouTube and Facebook and, on the website, etc., etc. And if you are stirring up your Christmas puddings this time, have fun. And at the time you're doing them, remember Christ the King.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.